The legend of Bigfoot is a fun and mysterious topic, but is there any truth to it? You'll have to decide for yourself. So my sister got me into this documentary called Missing 411: The Hunt did. It's on It's on Prime if you're interested. It's got a lot of Bigfoot theories in it, and I kind of basically fell down a rabbit hole of Bigfoot theories from watching that. That Bigfoot may be a fun pop culture reference, but sightings and stories have been occurring long before Harry and the Hendersons, and it's been all across America. So I'm going to share just a few of these stories and some examples of these. May get you thinking a little bit. I'll present a few examples from early days of America down to mid-century-ish, and some modern-day theories about Bigfoot. Sightings of a big, hairy, ape-like creature have actually been occurring all over the world for centuries, but Bigfoot or Sasquatch is unique to America. Bigfoot sightings are nothing new. Some of the earliest stories or legends about a Sasquatch come from Native American tribes. Many tribes believe that Sasquatch was a spiritual being. They described it to be a 6 to 8 foot ape-like man with hair covering the entire body. According to the Great Lakes tribe, if you're walking in the woods and you hear the sound of a stick or a branch being whacked really loudly against a tree, that's a warning that you're in Bigfoot territory. Early American settlers and explorers also have some stories. In 986 AD, while exploring the New World, Leif Erikson and his men reported crossing paths with ugly, hairy, man-like beasts they called Skelring. They towered over them and produced a foul-smelling odor. In 1829 in Georgia, a local newspaper reported a story about a group of settlers who were exploring the Okefenokee Swamp and were attacked by a 13-foot beast who ended up killing 5 men before they finally shot it to death. Tales of a hairy ape-like monster continued to occur, and then starting around the mid-century, Bigfoot started becoming a more mainstream idea. During the 50s and 60s, newspaper articles started coming out more, which fascinated the public. In 1958, there was a newspaper article that reported about a group of loggers in Northern California that found enormous footprints around their work site, and this is actually where the name Bigfoot first came from. And then in the summer of 1969, a 6-year-old boy named Dennis Martin vanished from the Great Smoky Mountains. He was never found. Later on, a hiker who was in the area claimed that he saw a large hairy figure carrying something that he said could have been a child. And then on down to the 70s, people started to explore more about Bigfoot and actually came up with some compelling evidence. In the early 70s, there was a guy named Ron Moorhead who was a camper, an explorer, an outdoorsman. He recorded a series of sounds which included howling, grunting, what can only be described as weird gibberish, and the sound of a large stick whacking against a tree. These were supposed Bigfoot sounds. They were the first to ever be scientifically evaluated, I believe, at the University of Wyoming, and they concluded that they were organic sounds and that some of the frequencies reached in howling were impossible for a human. I'll include a link for those sounds. They're pretty wild if you want to listen to those. Many people have reported hearing similar sounds over the years, and there's now a huge following of believers, and a lot of people have come up with different ideas and theories, some of them really out there, but there was one guy, he's a former detective named David Paulides, and he started to notice patterns of people disappearing in remote wilderness areas across America. Starting in the 60s, a lot of children started disappearing, not a lot, but relatively a lot for the woods. Without a trace, most of the time they're never found. If they do find them, they'll find their body or some of their clothes or other evidence in an area miles away that's impossible for a child to reach on their own. There's also a lot of hunters and experienced woodsmen who have vanished under very bizarre, unexplainable circumstances. Many of these disappearances have unusual similarities. Victims will become suddenly separated from their group, and it happens often by a large body of water or a granite deposit or a granite deposit. Search and rescue dogs cannot pick up a scent. If they do find their body, there's no noticeable cause of death. Many of these disappearances occur in similar or about the same area, which are called hotspots in national parks. Santa Fe National Forest is actually a hotspot. And if the bodies do turn up, they actually find them in an area that has already been searched. And sometimes they're missing random clothing, like their shoes. Many theorize that these disappearances are caused by Bigfoot. And that's just one of many theories today. So these Bigfoot sightings have been occurring since the early days of America, and they became popularized in the mid-century, and they still spark a lot of interest today. The legend of Bigfoot is a fun modern-day tale, but it has a place throughout American history. No one knows for sure if Bigfoot is real or not, but maybe next time you're going to go in the woods alone, you'll think twice.